Hey everybody, welcome back. Oops. Dr. Jaws here, and tonight we are doing a special episode, which is really exciting. We usually do uh, a specific shark each episode each week. Sometimes we've done fossil specials, so we've done, I think, two or three special episodes where we talk about prehistoric sharks. But this is the first time that we're going to be talking about a shark behavior, and this is suggested by one of our viewers for something like just something new to explore. So today's behavior is going to be spy hopping. So this is the shark spy hopping special for the Dr. Oz live stream. So, spy hopping is a behavior that only a few sharks have been reported doing, and we'll explain more as we get more people jumping on the stream later into the night. But as a quick summary, it's when a shark is at the surface of the water and it's actually popping its head up above the surface to kind of take a look at surroundings above the surface. So there's only a few sharks that have been known to do this. The most famous one being white sharks. White sharks are very, very famous for doing spy hopping. But we also have a couple other species. Dogfish, Squalus acanthius, pike dogfish, the dusky smoothhound, Musculus canis, and I think other smoothhounds have been recorded spy hopping. And then in preparation for tonight, I didn't realize that seven-gill sharks also have been known for spy hopping. So, which is so bizarre. I didn't think that a shark like a 6-gill or 7-gill would be able to do that kind of behavior. So, but that's all I know so far, and it's not entirely understood why sharks do this. And like the best explanation for white sharks is that it's a way for them to kind of like maybe ascertain the surroundings as they figure out or identify where potential prey items may be, specifically seals on rocks. But for the other sharks, that doesn't really make a lot of sense because they're kind of more. They're sharks that are not bottom dwelling, but they spend more of their time on the bottom, like the dogfish and the smoothhounds. So I don't know why they spy hop, but hopefully we will find out tonight. So we'll go ahead and take a look. I think we'll start out just kind of reading some research, and then as we get more people joining, we'll take a look at some clips about spy hopping. And we'll kind of see what we can, or learn what we can learn. So it's our first behavior special, and I think with that we'll just go ahead and get started. So let's do. I think this is probably a good place to start. So this is just a short little section on elazobrink behavior. So elazobrink is a term for both sharks and then their cousins, the rays. So the batoids. Here we go. We'll side tangent to threat display in a little bit, but this is the one that white sharks are most often associated with. It's gaping, slapping, and breaching, and this would include spy hopping. So it is really only the last decade or so that one of the most iconic sharks has come under the spotlight of rigorous behavioral study. In a series of papers presented by the volume Great White Sharks: A Biology of Carcharodon carcharias, published in 1996, various biologists described some of the behaviors observed in the world's largest extant predatory fish. One paper in particular, by Wesley Straughn of the Cousteau Society in Virginia, described, and hey, shout out to Virginia, home state, described a thwart-induced behavior he termed repetitive aerial gaping, or RAG. Straughn observation of RAG in 6 white sharks, 3 of each sex, during his study off South Australia. This display was exhibited when the bait was pulled away immediately prior to contact and consisted of the shark raising its head out of the water, rolling on its side, and opening and closing its mouth in a sequence of slow yet rhythmic partial gapes. The display sequences averaged 10 seconds. Analyzing each instance separately, Straughn proposed a number of hypotheses, including thwarting, aggression reduction, extended feeding attempt, and predator-prey communication. He concluded that RAG is probably a manifestation of frustration incurred during a series of thwarted feeding attempts and may serve to reduce interspecific aggression, so aggression between 2 white sharks. Another paper in the same volume documented novel tail and slap breach behaviors in white sharks at the South Farallon Islands in Central California. The authors filmed 129 feeding incidents over the 3 years between 1988 and 1991, 83 of which involved some variant of the tail slap. Tail slap consists of the shark rolling on its side, lifting its tail out of the water, and slamming it down onto the water's surface with considerable force. The resultant splash is usually directed at the other shark, which is pretty interesting. And this is going to be spy hopping. The authors also documented breaching behavior that consists of the shark raising 2/3 of its body out of the water at a 30 to 60 degree angle and landing flat. So what's really cool is like this is probably the most popular behavior that we've seen in a lot of like the Shark Week specials. Will do. I mean, Air Jaws is like a whole other branch of Shark Week specials, and it's specifically about this behavior. What's extremely cool is that it's not limited to only great white sharks. Spinner sharks do this. Mako sharks do this. What blows my mind is that basking sharks do this. So, like an enormous shark, like a basking shark, actually breaches, which is just unbelievable to think about. But they do it, and there's a great clip on YouTube of a basking shark breaching. So that we saw on our basking shark stream. But these behaviors were interpreted as social signal between sharks vying for food, based on the observation that the shark whom the tail slap was directed at either returned the tail slap or withdrew to allow the tail slapper to feed. The breaching behavior, as it displaces more water than tail slap, was considered to be a more intense form of the tail slap message. So, this is really social, and I don't know how, it would be interesting if we could find the study directly, because it's, all these conclusions are very, very social, but I don't know how much of them, it would be cool if this was corroborated more, because it just implies a lot of social intelligence between sharks, and that can happen perhaps, but it also could be other behaviors too, like a basking shark's breaching could be a way to dislodge parasites like lampreys, and not necessarily a social thing. So breaching has also been observed in other species, including basking shark. There it is. Oh, sorry. That literally is right there, including the basket shark, with parasite removal having the proposed reason. Gotcha. Because for basket sharks, they have lampreys. Lampreys are the big thing that it's the blood-sucking fish that kind of like hop on to their skin, and that would be a great parasite to just remove from a breach. So the aptly named spinner shark, Carcharodontis provipinna, gets its name from the rapid spinning jumps it makes out of the water. In this case, however, the breaches are a side effect of the shark's feeding behavior. Okay, so this is interesting. So this article is making the distinction between breaches that are kind of reflexive, like they're just a part of the shark feeding, and breaches that actually might be more social. So that makes it more interesting, where there's a conscious distinction between the two. So the white sharks actually might be doing social breaches, which it blows my mind that they may be doing that, and that it's a weird way of maybe kind of communicating to each other. But anyways, spinner sharks rush at fish shoals, rotating by any fish in reach. These feeding runs are often so powerful the shark leaps clear out of the water. So treading water, I think it's another way to describe spy hopping. But this is closer to the behavior that we want to focus on tonight. So many years ago, I had volunteered at a local Blue Reef aquarium. As part of my job was to give talks to members of the public about sharks and rays on display. One of the most common behaviors exhibited by rays, and to a lesser extent the sharks, is apparent treading water, during which the fish would turn from its normal horizontal path and swim vertically surfaceward. Upon reaching the surface, it will raise about half its body out of the water and continue in an apparent bid to swim into the air. This behavior usually occurred when people approach an open-top tank. This precise motivation for this behavior is something that the aquarium staff are frequently asked to interpret. Just interesting. So, great photo of a skate treading water. A blonde ray? That looks like a skate, so it's kind of interesting. Raja is also a genus of skates, so Raja eglanteria is a clear-nose skate, so interesting. I consider this behavior probably had several purposes dependent on the whereabouts in the tank it was performed. For example, this behavior is most frequently elicited at the periphery of the tank, and in these cases it probably represented the fish attempting to traverse the barrier it encountered by swimming over it. Some visitors consider the behavior to be investigatory. It is not an unwarranted consideration that these fish sought contact from members of the public at the tank side. Prior to the Blue Reef taking over the aquarium, it used to be under management of the Sea Life Center chain, and the pool was a touch pool, where customers could, under supervision, touch and stroke the inhabitants. The protocol under Blue Reef was such that was such that patrons were not permitted to touch the fish. Several observations from aquariums across the globe indicate that the fish may actually benefit from human contact, however, laying more eggs than those kept off show. Finally, and realistically, the most probable is that the shark arrays approach the visitors looking for food. The elasmobranchs in a specific tank are fed by hand from the surface and may thus consider any visitor to the tank a potential food bearer. Okay. So it cites that there's an additional paragraph that, oh, that's a great photograph of a white shark spy hopping, actually. That's a great photograph of it. So here we go. So it's great to see that there's an actual section devoted to spy hopping explicitly. So here we go. Head out of the water spy hopping. In a similar vein to the treading water behavior exhibited by some species in captivity, several species of shark have been known to hang almost vertically in the water with their head above the surface, a behavior known as spy hopping. This behavior is well known among sharks as they approach boats and has been interpreted as them looking for food. The difference in refractive index between the air and the water is such that it's unlikely that sharks make out much detail, but they will almost certainly be able to make out shapes. Two very specific cases of spy hopping have been documented. One in the great white and the other in the oceanic white tip, Carcharodontis longimanus. Okay. In the white shark, this behavior is often exhibited around boats as if trying to get a look at the activity on deck. It has also been recorded around seal colonies, specifically while seals or sea lions are hauled out on the rocks. It has been suggested that spy hopping around hauled out pinnipeds may be a tactic to scare them off the rocks into the water where they're vulnerable to attack. Equally, however, it may be the shark attempting to examine the rocks for potential food. Indeed, in his 2003 Field Guide to the Great White Shark, the late Aidan Martin described how when a shark is spy hopping, sometimes a small quantity of clear fluid, probably seawater, can be seen dribbling or squirting from around the eyeball. This may be due to the shark using its massive ocular muscles to flatten the back of its eyeball against the inside of the eye socket. In other words, the seawater dribbles out of the shark, tries to change the shape in its lens to account for the air being 750 times less dense than water. That is super cool. Let's see, we're going to put a pin in this. Let's see if we can get any footage, because we do have some great white shark footage. Let's see if we can get any clips of that, because some of these interactions are really quick. So here's a white shark kind of poking its head out of the water. It's not quite a full spy hop. Let's see if we can get a different angle. Let's see. That is a little bit closer, and that's an amazing shot of that behavior. It's sad to see this white shark have a hook in its head, because these sharks are a protected species. They are a beautiful animal and should not be fished at all. But it's really, let's see if we can slow this down and see if we see anything particularly with the eyeball. Let's see, we'll slow it down. So the shark is going after a bait being pulled on a line. It raises its head out of the water. The eye is changing its position a little bit. And actually, you can actually see it. So the eye is actually kind of rolling around the head a little bit. It's actually kind of... this is really interesting. Let's see that one more time. Let's see, so the shark raises its head out of the water. The eyeball kind of rolls into... It's a subtle movement, then it becomes a little bit more exaggerated. It really kind of rolls outward towards the edge of the socket. It's really interesting. And then it rolls back inward when the shark is underwater. See that one more time. So as the shark is approaching the bait, it's kind of hard to tell, but it seems like the eye is a little bit more flush with the head. Then as it pokes its head out of the water, the eye gets to the edge of the socket and, kind of looks a little bug-eyed in this shot. Then it puts its head under the water again, and then the eye looks a little bit more sunken in and flush with the head. So, pretty interesting stuff. Hmm. Oop. And apologies, my music just kind of died. But this is more of a classic spy hop. Shark is at the surface interacting with a human. And this is I think this might be South Africa. This is like a pretty popular tourism behavior, really dangerous. But this is allegedly what is happening is that this human is actually stimulating the ampullae lorenzini. He's touching the shark's snout, which is where the highest concentration of the ampullae lorenzini, the electromagnetic sensing organs, are. So with that, he actually might be kind of overstimulating the shark, and the shark might be, kind of receiving some interesting sensation from this behavior, so or from this interaction. So this is why the shark might be trying to stay in the same area. Incredible shot, by the way, too. The shark is not being aggressive, but it's just it's a huge, powerful animal just with these naturally like enormous teeth. So it's kind of an amazing view of these like incredible jaws, like just and like the size of it too. I mean, you can see. One more time, just incredible, incredible view, and we'll slow this clip down too. Yeah, that's incredible. So the eyeballs are doing something a little bit different here that you can see. They're rolling into the back of the head. So, and that is a behavior that is meant to protect the eyeballs from harm. So when we see the eyeball right at the shark's at the surface of the shark, or sorry, right when the shark is at the surface, it seems kind of flush with the socket. It seems to kind of maintain its position for the most part. Incredible shot of the jaws. As a reminder, a shark's upper jaws are not connected to its chondrocranium, so it's not like mammal jaws, like human jaws. Our upper jaws are connected to our skull is like our cranium and our upper jaws connected. So, but sharks have a free-ranging upper jaw, so that's part of their flexibility. And some of the classic shark um, like the jaws protruding. You can see like the gums, like that classic, really freaky looking bite. Kind of comes from the fact that the jaws are movable; they're protrusible. So, and it's a great way to lunge forward and acquire prey items, where a shark could just project its jaws forward to grab any kind of prey that might be swimming by that are getting close enough to the jaws. But it's kind of a cool adaptation versus like when you think of like a human's jaws or like a dog's jaws or something. Like the upper jaw is connected to the cranium, so that's part of what makes the skull. And the shark doesn't technically have a skull because it has a cranium, but it has or a chondrocranium, but it's not fused to the upper jaw. So the upper jaw is completely free moving, so it's really cool to see. As far as the eyes go, not a lot of difference in the behavior other than the eyes rolling in the back of the head to protect the eyeball. It's so cool to see. It's an amazing, amazing animal. Very scary, like just of course, just to see it in the way it moves. But again, this individual shark is not being aggressive at all. So, and we'll play this back at full speed, and we'll come back to this clip later for more reference. But still, really, really amazing stuff to see. Unbelievable. So, we'll go back to spy hopping. All right, so I really like the theory that it's something to do with prey acquisition, so or kind of like prey location. So trying to figure out where seals might be. But I never heard of that other take, which is scaring seals. So like the shark is poking its head out of the water to scare seals. Never ever heard of that before. So that's actually really cool. Let's see. Another word. Oh, we already read that. In a fascinating paper to the Journal of Ichthyology in 1995, Russian anatomists Sergei Savalev and Valery Chernikov suggested that the oceanic white-tip may lift its head out of the water to smell for food, which that sounds really far-fetched because part of like how a shark like smells is that there's a constant flow of seawater over its uh, nasal capsule, so there's no you need to maintain that pressure. So if a shark is like surfacing, um, like you're not going to be maintaining that pressure in the medium of air. So it's kind of interesting. Put simply, they build a mechanical shark head, attach it to a pivot, and place it onto a tank. The head could be angled upwards until it broke the water surface or downwards until it was completely submerged. Additionally, they dissected the olfactory organs of some oceanic whitetips and found closely packed epithelial cells and planted collagen fibers in the lamellae, suggesting they're particularly good at trapping air and analyzing scent. Almost directly opposite to the structure observed in smaller demersal coastal sharks, such as the spiny dogfish. Using this model, Savalev and Chernikov observed that the shark only needs to raise its head a couple centimeters out of the water for air bubbles to be collected on the olfactory lamellae, albeit it needs to be moving at over 1.2 meters per second. Once captured, the shark can slow down and the air is held in the nose for processing. Overall, the biologists concluded that the combination of specialized lamellae arrangement and the construction of the nares and olfactory chamber to funnel water very specifically and break down incoming air into small bubbles makes the oceanic whitetip well adapted to sampling airborne odors. That scents disperse more quickly in air than water means sharks with the ability to sample them can locate food from greater distances than those species not adapted to such air scenting. So that is wild, but it makes sense based on the oceanic whitetip's biology. Oops, sorry. I'm trying to. I don't know why the music's being so weird. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Okay, so for the oceanic whitetip, it makes sense because oceanic whitetips are open ocean hunters. And the open ocean is like a marine desert, so there really is not a lot of opportunities to acquire food in that environment, and it would benefit the shark to have any kind of additional sense to pick up any kind of smell over great distances, and specifically you would think about something like a whale carcass. So a whale carcass would emit a lot of oils in the water, but also perhaps like a lot of smell at the air because the gases of a whale carcass would bring it to the surface for a period of time and then slowly disperse until the whale sinks. So that would actually be a useful scent to have, and kind of amazing if that is true, that the shark is. If that's why the shark evolved those features, like to be able to process aerial smells, is to hone in on food over great distances. That's really an amazing adaptation. And it'd be really cool to kind of do a similar experiment with blue sharks or maybe mako sharks even to see if they have evolved similar features. Silky sharks would be a good example too, because they all live in a similar environment. So being open ocean hunters. So this is a great shot of an oceanic whitetip with pilot fish. And again, this is a classic predator of open seas where they have to hone in on any kind of prey item as accurately and quickly as possible. It actually also makes sense that these sharks often hone in on fishing vessels really rapidly. And it could be that it's not just like the oils in the water or other smells in the water emitted from the vessel itself, it also could be some of the aerial scents which is unbelievable. It's super super cool to think about. And I didn't know that a white tip shark is a spy hopping shark either. So really cool. There's a couple other behaviors. So they mentioned walking, like an epaulette shark, which is a bottom dwelling shark that can kind of march over the seabed. Threat display, which is like when a shark, kind of exaggerates its body posture to communicate to other species, other sharks, or maybe other animals in general. But as far as like the spy hopping behavior specifically, it's kind of cool to have this like beginning, this like first point of reference in terms of like why sharks may have this behavior. So I'm excited to learn more. Oops. Let's see. So this is a more in-depth scientific paper on spy hopping. So we'll go ahead and take a look. And this might actually feature the dusky smoothhound, also known as the smooth dogfish. So, which is another species I'm familiar with doing this. So here we go. The smooth dogfish also exhibit an interesting behavior which keepers have termed spy hopping. Spy hopping is the smooth dogfish shark is characterized by the animal protruding its rostrum above the surface of the water and moving it side to side while swimming in either a linear or rotational manner. The behavior seems to be indicative of a stress response. Although I did not gather any conclusive data on spy hopping behavior for this paper, I offered my hypotheses on the mechanism in the discussion section. Interesting. So, and this is a larger study on smooth dogfish, dusky smoothhounds in captivity. The shark activity level increased significantly on days with 50 or more patrons, consistent with the finding that stationary behavior occurred significantly less and for shorter durations on high traffic stays. So this must be a public aquarium. These results may suggest a heightened state of arousal, which keeps the sharks at active level higher than what would be expected when fewer patrons interact with the sharks. This could also indicate that levels of stress with more patrons present. However, the sharks do not exhibit any startle behaviors, speeding up, spy hopping, tail whipping when patrons touch them appropriately. Hey Bruce, welcome back. Spy hopping as a stress response. Interesting. Could that be they are searching for potential threats? That's a really... I also hope you had a great weekend. That's a really interesting hypothesis or idea. Also, thank you for letting me know. Sorry about that. I don't know why my system is being really weird today, but it is... Well, Monday the 13th. I guess not Friday the 13th. Oh, awesome. Yeah, same here. I'm working on a sand devil drawing, which is turning out very, very excited about it, actually. It's been fun kind of getting back into shark art. But did that, did some cleaning, and watched some scary movies. Watched Nosferatu, the new Nosferatu, the 2024 one, which is really good, really, really freaky, but definitely recommend. It's if you like scary movies, it's a really solid scary movie. So it's the same director as I don't know if you say The Witch or The Vivitch. It's like the way the title is spelled is like two V's, but it's a really good movie. Nosferatu is really good. So, but spy hopping is a stress response. I think so. I don't know if you were here for that the earlier article, but it was talking about the earlier article was talking about treading water, and the hypothesis about that is one possibility is like a ray or a shark trying to maybe break the barrier, like trying to maybe like get out of the tank, and so it's propelling itself to the surface to see if there's any kind of way it can exit. So it could be that, like if a shark is stressed out and it's spy hopping as a stress response, it could be a way to like look for maybe not potential threats, but maybe potential escapes, or it could be potential threats too. So in the case of captive sharks for spy hopping, that might make sense. And then I don't know. Oh my gosh! I rewatched The House on Haunted Hill, really old horror movie. I actually saw that advertised. Did you watch it on Hulu? Because I saw it advertised on Hulu, and I was kind of intrigued. That's the Vincent Price one, I think, right? I've never seen it, but I'm kind of intrigued because it's a classic. House on Haunted Hills is iconic. So I might have to check that out. But that sounds awesome. Like I love this time of year. Like I do love October, and like I always like love watching scary movies. Um, as far as spy hopping goes, so right now we have the captive sharks potentially doing that as an escape response, and then we have wild sharks, so like the white shark, potentially ascertaining where prey is on the rocks, like seals, or like scaring seals, like actually popping up and trying to scare seals off the rocks, so that there's a higher chance of predation. And then with the oceanic white tip, potentially trying to ascertain aerial sense. Which, if it was any other shark, that sounds really far-fetched, but because it's an open ocean shark where, since smell disperses in air better than in water, it kind of makes sense. If smell travels if smell travels farther in air than in water, it makes sense for like an open ocean predator to try to use that to help hone in on prey in such a vast environment. So, which is so cool if that's true. But oh, nice! Watch a bootleg on YouTube, 1950s version. Awesome. It was super cool. I remember. I don't know if this was a remake or a different version of it, but there was a ghost movie with Liam Neeson and Owen Wilson, and I think Catherine Zeta-Jones. It's like this 90s, 2000s ghost movie. And I think it's based on House on Haunted Hill, or maybe a remake. I can't remember what it is, but I do remember it was such an odd cast. So, but let's see, future research. Although I do not include observations on spy hopping behaviors in this manuscript, the behavior is particular interest to me. The behavior is termed spy hopping due to its superficial resemblance to a similar behavior seen in many species of cetacea. So we could take a quick look at that. So we got a nice little clip of so cetacea are whales. So this is a nice little clip of orcas spy hopping. Pretty amazing to see. And whales being as smart as they are, as intelligent as they are, it makes sense that this is actually legitimately. Oh, nope, that's actually literally Nosferatu. Sorry about that. It makes sense that for them, it's a way to ascertain their surroundings. And actually, like, try to make a mental picture of like what's going on around them, and actually kind of process what's going on around them. Like whales are very cerebral; they have that kind of intelligence. So it makes sense that they're using spy hopping as an additional means of kind of processing their environment, which is so cool. But I did pull up these killer whale clips for reference. This is like the classic sense of what spy hopping is. So we have orca whales moving. I think there should be this clip is titled spy hopping. There should be a clip of one. There we go. So there's the orca spy hopping. So that is a spy hop. So just lifting the head vertically out of the water to kind of see what's going on at the surface. It's actually really cool that orca whales spy hop and white shark spy hop because both prey on seals. So it's kind of like a fun thing where they're different animals in different branches of the evolutionary tree, but they have a similar behavior and a similar prey item. So, which is pretty cool to think about. Great, love this clip of a great white just doing this behavior. So very cool to see. So. Is the dogfish species mentioned? I forget which one. Found near the shore. They could be searching for the shore in order to escape predators by fleeing to shallow water. Bruce, that's awesome. Yes, so it is. So the one in the paper is Musclus canis, the dusky smoothhound, also known as the smooth dogfish, and that definitely is a shallow water species. So they can range in shallow or deep water, but the population off the east coast of the United States and I don't know if they go to Canada actually. I know they're on the east coast of the United States. I forget if they go, how far north they go. I think you can actually find them. You might be able to find them in the Bay of Fundy in Canada, but not 100% sure. But anyway, the East Coast population in the U.S. is actually a very shallow water population. They spend their time on the continental shelf, and they love estuaries, and they actually really, especially love, well, not especially love, but they love salt marshes, which is kind of wild to think about because that's such a very small environment and like a close pack environment. But your idea is that's really awesome. Actually, it could be searching for the shore in order to escape predators by fleeing to shallow water. That's a really cool idea actually, and it makes sense because it is a common forage shark. Like this species is so abundant that it's unfortunately food for other kinds of sharks like sand tiger sharks, sandbar sharks, hammerhead sharks. They will all go after dogfish. So it makes sense, or smoothhounds. Like Americans confuse the two as dogfish. They say both are dogfish, but if you're properly splitting them up, dogfish are the squaliforms and smoothhounds are part of they're the triachids, or they're part of carcharodontiforms, so they're kind of their own thing. But anyway, the smoothhounds like are very abundant on this coast and use shallow water estuaries as a refuge. So it totally makes sense that they may be able to use that as a way to kind of ascertain where shallow water is. That's so cool, especially since they live in like close quarters environments like salt marshes. Like if like since they do utilize those habitats, that actually might be very useful to kind of like find or help identify little creeks or entryways. So it's super cool. Love that idea, especially murky water too. Because when you get closer and closer inshore, the murkier it gets. So especially in estuaries, so that might fit, which is really cool. So love the suggestion, and I'm gonna star that comment. So thank you. It's a really good suggestion. Although I did not include observation spy hopping, this behavior is of particular interest to me. The behavior is termed spy hopping due to its superficial resemblance to similar behavior seen in many species of cetacea. In cetacean species, spy hopping is a social behavior and is used for communication, food detection, and a general method of examining the animal's surroundings. When cetaceans spy hop, they tend to remain relatively stationary in the water. It may be misleading to refer to the behavior of the smooth dogfish as spy hopping. Although the behavior physically resembles spy hopping in cetacea, there is no evidence that it serves the same function. Spy hopping in smooth dogfish has been noted frequently in other facilities where the species is held in captivity, but has almost never been recorded in the wild. Field researchers have observed this behavior only in captive settings or immediately upon release of individuals into the wild after having been captured and handled for research purposes, suggesting that spy hopping may be indicative of a behavioral response to stress. And that makes sense. I mean, that does make sense because like, and I will say, and I am going to contradict myself a little bit because it makes sense because smoothhounds, even though they do live in shallow water, they do stick to the bottom. And actually, they're the underside of their what am I trying to say? Their ventral side is pretty flat. So many sharks are kind of like round all the way around, like they're kind of like spindle shaped or rotund, but smoothhounds actually are unusually kind of flat on the ventral side, and it's kind of like a weird. I kind of think that's an adaptation that's reflective of how close they stick to the bottom typically. So it makes sense that maybe it's not a natural wild behavior. And I'm contradicting myself because I really do like that idea that maybe they use it to look for shallow water areas near shore. But when I think about their biology, they do naturally spend a lot of their time near the bottom. So it might be a stress response overall. So catching up on comments, all species much larger than the smoothhound sharks that would not be able to follow them into much smaller areas. Not to mention this would be an instinctive response bore over years of going back into shallow water when growing in order to rest. That's a really good point, though. That is actually a really good point. And really cool to think about because, these sharks do, like just like salmon or just like menhaden or any kind of herring, these sharks do use the estuaries to pup, and they always come back to the estuaries to have their young, and the young grow up in those estuaries, and they return roughly to the same area every year, which is so cool. So So not going to rule out a wild behavior, like a natural wild behavior or reason for spy hopping occurring in wild for smoothhounds just yet. Um, yeah, I mean, these are just really cool ideas. So let's keep reading. I reviewed several hypotheses as to the mechanism behind spy hopping in smoothhound sharks by means of personal communication with handlers of the dogfish. David McElroy, a researcher at the Animal and Veterinary Science University of Rhode Island, suggested that spy hopping in smooth dogfish may be a reaction to stray voltage or electrical currents in an aquarium which agitate the shark's sensitive ampullae lorenzini. Interesting. Dr. Kwame McCandles of the Apex Predator Program in Rhode Island frequently observed dogfish spy hopping immediately upon release into the wild after being handled, weighted and tagged for research purposes. Interesting. Alan Henninson, a fisheries research specialist at the National Aquarium in Baltimore, has also observed this post-release reaction and observed spy hopping, particularly when the animals are placed in small aquarium systems. An intriguing study by G.H. Parker described behavior similar to spy hopping after severing nerves in the ears of smooth dogfish sharks, resulting in profound disruption of equilibrium. Ugh, that's horrible. Ugh. Let's see. So, fast forward. We read these. Okay. Although I have not yet gathered conclusive data on its behavior, spy hopping is demonstrated very frequently by sharks that reside in the holding tank of the Indianapolis Zoo. This holding area is much smaller than the public exhibit, but considerably deeper, with a surface of 700 square feet. Approximately 20 sharks reside in this holding tank, which does not allow much room for normal, continuous swimming activity. In the public exhibit, spy hopping is relatively rare and seems to occur when a shark is startled after running into or being chased by another shark, or handled by a staff member or patron. In the holding tank, spy hopping occurs far more frequently, with several sharks spy hopping at all times. My preliminary hypothesis on behavior is that populations of sharks housed in relatively small systems experience startling encounters with one another more frequently, resulting in spy hopping stress responses that occur at a more frequent, constant rate. Agitation of the sensory structure of the sharks in crowded areas may be one mechanism driving the stress response. Interesting. Closer investigation of spy hopping and stationary behaviors is important to ensure that the animals are provided with a naturalistic and enriching environment in captivity. There is much potential for future research on the smooth dogfish shark in captivity and in the wild. The results from the study alone generate many questions, including why do dogfish prefer a specific area for resting? Under what conditions do the dogfish rest in the wild? Does electrical activity in the brain change throughout the resting period? Is there a resting threshold, and what specifically terminates a resting period? What causes spy hopping? How would the introduction of live food in captivity affect activity level and behavior? How does behavior change when thousands of patrons approach the tank in a day in the summer? As smooth dogfish sharks become more common in public aquariums, questions such as these should be considered to guarantee good quality of life for the species in captivity. So, interesting stuff. So for the dogfish sharks, smoothhounds, which I've heard of having spy hopping before, it may be more of a stress response, unfortunately. And it's a good indicator of how public aquaria may have an adverse effect on a shark's health. It depends on the setting. So, let's see. Now, this kind of blew my mind. 7-gill sharks spy hopping. And this is actually a really interesting chart right here, so I'm going to read this. Illustration of a 7-gill feeding by social facilitation. So figure A is a typical attack pattern begins when a group of sharks forms a loose circle around its intended victim. Figure B attempts to escape or prevented by the pack, which gradually tightens its circle around the prey. It's really cool. Figure C. Eventually, one or more sharks bite the prey, which stimulates the rest of the pack to converge on it. Figure D. Once the attack has been initiated, the rest of the pack quickly joins in to obtain its share of the food. So, really freaky. It's actually really interesting figure to see. Spy hopping figure 5. This is unbelievable. Look at this. I never thought a 7-gill shark would spy hop, actually. So, illustration of a 7-gill spy hopping. 7 gills, along with several other shark species, have been observed to elevate their head above the waterline. It's really cool. 7 gills are capable of spy hopping, a form of behavior that has been documented in marine mammals whereby the head is elevated above the waterline. This appears to be a fairly common form of behavior because it has been observed in the spiny dogfish, the brown smoothhound, and the ragged-tooth shark. So this is actually interesting. Sand tiger sharks. Sand tiger sharks apparently spy hop, which I never knew that they spy hopped, but I do know that sand tiger sharks gulp air. So they will actually gulp air at the surface, and they do that to maintain neutral buoyancy in the water column. So sand tiger sharks will swim up, and actually it's kind of cool. Sand tiger sharks, as big as they are and as like fearsome looking as they are, they're actually very shallow water dwelling sharks. They really like to spend their time in very shallow water, and it kind of makes sense that they also love shipwrecks too. And it kind of makes sense that they gulp air at the surface to kind of like remain motionless. It helps them remain motionless in the water column and just kind of like hover and drift over their favorite haunts like shipwrecks and reefs. It kind of makes sense that that's a mechanism that they use to kind of help achieve that. It helps their overall equilibrium in the water, or balance in the water, which is super cool. So it's not surprising that they spy hop, but never heard of that before though. So, in addition, the white shark has been photographed spy hopping. The reasons for this behavior in sharks are unknown, but predator avoidance or prey detection could be possibilities. Given that the white shark and 7-gill sharks have few natural predators, it seems likely that prey detection would be the main function of spy hopping in these species. An apex predator familiar with all aspects of its home range is at a decided advantage over its prey and is better suited to defending its territory. The concept of home territory has been well documented for mammals, birds, and reptiles, but it has never been studied in sharks. Interesting. Let me check. Actually, no, I don't have that guy, do I? I think 7-gill shark, this kind of 7-gill shark, these are the ones in I forget it's California, South Africa. Let's see. But I believe these do prey on marine mammals, which is kind of wild to think about. The broad-nosed 7-gill shark. Nodorhynchus epidianus. Let's see. Broad-nosed 7-gill. Diet. Broad varied diet. Larger sharks consume a higher proportion of marine mammals. Interesting. Bruce, perhaps when holding them, installing some kind of sensor to detect their noses above the surface of the water could be used to ascertain the amount of stress they are under. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Feeding frenzy. Yeah. So it's cool to see it. I mean, like, it makes sense. I think what's really fascinating about this graph, even though it is a chart about what a feeding frenzy is, I really like the slow play of events where the sharks will slowly gather around a prey item and then slowly tighten the net, which I think that aspect is really cool because unfortunately when feeding frenzies are described, at least in like popular media, it's described as a very sudden just rush of sharks colliding out of nowhere. But I really like that there's a slow progression of events where the sharks loosely aggregate, so the seal is none the wiser to what's going on. And then the sharks make a circle, and the seal starts to get boxed in, but it's still maybe not 100% sure what's going on. And then the circle tightens, and the seal's like, oh crap, I can't get out. And then that's when they all bite, where it's like as they close in, they reduce the opportunity of the seal escaping and then increase the opportunity of each individual taking that bite and, injuring the prey item and benefiting the group. And it's super cool. I I think it's really cool to see the progression of events, where it's not random. It's a little bit more organized than that, which is so interesting to see. So let's see if we can learn more about spy hopping. So I see Greg Skolmel's name. So here we go. Spy hopping allows white sharks to examine their environment from a different perspective. Dr. Skolmel echoed the sentiment that schooling bait fish are a potential precursor of increased shark activity. White sharks tend to congregate where large numbers of prey can be found, specifically seal colonies like the ones found off of Cape Cod, South Africa, and the Farallon Islands. He also stressed the generally curious nature of these animals. White sharks have been known to spy hop, peeking above the surface to get a view of their surroundings. So it's kind of wild to see Cape Cod uttered in the same sentence as South Africa and Farallon Islands. On the one hand, that's awesome, where the Cape Cod seals populations are have recovered to such a significant degree that they are forming a good baseline for white sharks, and that's really cool. But on the other hand, Cape Cod, at least when I was growing up, wasn't really known for white sharks were definitely there, but it wasn't really known for white shark activity the way it is now known for white shark activity. And part of that is due to the rebounding of the seal populations due to good conservation. So the conservation that helped bring seals back is also helping to bring back their top predator. So this is kind of interesting. Additional note here. I'll zoom in. So mouthing objects is another commonly observed behavior. For a creature lacking hands, its teeth, which are full of nerve endings, must act as the primary tactile pathway. Test bites have been witnessed towards objects ranging from boat motors to floating seabirds. While this behavior lacks the speed and ferocity of a true attack, the strength of a fully grown white shark, potentially up to 26 feet and 4,000 pounds for the larger females, coupled with rows of serrated teeth specifically designed to grip and tear, can mean that serious, albeit unintentional, damage is done. Yep. So, pretty interesting to see. And actually, a great example of that, I love this clip, I keep going back to it, but I mean, it is this clip, which this is an excellent example of this white shark individual is completely harmless. It's not aggressive, it's not doing anything particularly aggressive, it's just chilling out in the water and getting these stimulation from a human who's just petting the snout with the ampullae lorenzini. But if this person made a wrong move and accidentally got somewhere near the shark's upper or lower jaw, it's lights out, just because literally each tooth is like razor blades. So it's a great example of just kind of demonstrating what that article was saying, is that these sharks do test bites, and the sharks are exerting as much calm and self-control, well, not self-control, but calm as is possible for a giant animal with razor sharp teeth. But even so, damage can be done, even though the shark's not intending it. Because if the shark actually really wanted to do malicious damage, it would just lunge out of the water and try to nail this person's hand. But it's not. This individual's not doing that. So it's pretty interesting to see how this plays out. So we'll go to, what was I reading? I guess we'll hop ahead to the next article. Hi, Howard. Welcome back. Hope you had a really good weekend. Just to summarize, so we are doing a behavior special on spy hopping, and we learned a couple really cool things. So we learned that white sharks do this, and I knew that they did this to ascertain where seals are on the rocks, but I never heard of the theory that they also might do this to scare the seals. So the idea that the shark's head emerges out of the water, the seals might be frightened enough to panic and jump in the water. And I think the former is more accurate, where the shark is actually just trying to ascertain where the seals are. But we have white sharks doing it for that reason. We just talked about smoothhound sharks, dusky smoothhounds, perhaps doing spy hopping in aquariums as a stress response. There's other elasmobranchs that do spy hopping or treading water as a way to kind of maybe get out of their tank or see if there's an exit. We talked about how oceanic white-tip sharks might spy hop to ascertain aerial smells. Oceanic whitetips actually do have these specialized nostrils that do have lamellae, and you still need to put water pressure on these specialized features, but which the shark does. It's evolved this kind of interesting aspect of its nostril, like an interesting way to channel water actively as it's taking as it's like spy hopping out the surface and like perhaps taking a sample of any kind of smell in the air. It sounds so unbelievable, but the thing that is kind of wild is the fact that air disperses more quickly. Smell disperses more quickly in air than in water, and it makes sense for an open ocean predator like an oceanic whitetip to benefit from that and evolve something that helps capture that aspect or utilize that aspect, because it needs to figure out how to locate prey in such a large, expanse. So that's really cool. And then we learned that 7-gill sharks spy hop, which I never heard of before, and then sand tigers spy hop, which I didn't realize before. So that's kind of where we are right now. It's proven to be a really interesting behavior so far, and we're going to keep going. So, surface behavior of bait-attracted white sharks at Dyer Island, South Africa. So, very famous location. And we'll read the article. Sounds pretty interesting. So. 6 research expeditions were conducted at Dyer Island to observe the surface behavior of white sharks in the presence of bait. Observations were made from a commercial cage diving boat. We observed 140 white sharks that exhibited 9 different types of behavior: parading, bait following, visual inspection, breach, tail slap, tail stand, spy hop, repetitive aerial gaping, and head-up vertical emerging. Breach and tail slap were the most performed by male sharks, and tail slap and tail stand were more often performed by mature animals. So this is really interesting. We were reading a different article earlier saying that tail slaps are actually a social communication to other white sharks in an area. It's a way to kind of like push them away or kind of say, hey, this is my area, get out of here. So it's kind of an aggressive behavior. And it's interesting, I would say that's a little bit of a reach, except for the fact that the article that was talking about that also mentioned that spinner sharks breach because it's a consequence of them going after prey. White sharks breach for other reasons. And the fact that this article made that distinction was really interesting, where it's like, okay, so it knows and it has a self-awareness to know that breaching could be a consequence of just a shark going after a prey item really quickly, and it's not necessarily a social thing. But the fact that they made that distinction between spinner sharks and white sharks and are kind of doubling down on the idea that, yeah, white sharks do this as social communication is really interesting. And it seems like this might be echoed where the fact that male white sharks are doing this, pretty interesting, where it could be a territoriality thing perhaps. So, Howard, I love this idea of behavioral studies. Yes. Me too. I mean, and it's I'd be happy to do another episode like this, because it's already proven really interesting. There's a lot of behaviors to review, so it's not just spy hopping, but aggressive swimming I think would be a really interesting one to do someday, where sharks take on exaggerated swimming postures as a communication, as another kind of social communication. Tailing or ways to form social hierarchies. Some sharks do that. Like some sharks exhibit dominance, which is really interesting, where you think a shark is not really a social animal, but there are some aspects going on, which is pretty cool. So let's see. So the ethogram consists of an average of 20 behavioral units with a significant transitional pattern from bait follow to parading and from parading to bait follow. The individual surface behavior of white sharks is not simple stimulus-response reflex, but rather a complex tactical situation in which animals show plastic responses. Many aspects of white shark surface behavior resemble those of other predator species that spend time at the surface. So, I think this article is worth diving into more deeply. So, I'll just zoom ahead to spy hopping, and then we'll kind of take a closer look at, or a broader look at, the other behaviors. So. So we have photographs of behavior, or actually no, descriptions of behavior. Actually, yeah, you know what? Maybe we'll just read this from the top because this is going to be really interesting. So here we go. Okay. All right, the white shark is widely distributed throughout most oceans in temperate and subtropical regions, but in most places it is rare. It is relatively abundant in only the following 8 great white hotspots: Central California, especially Farallon Islands and Ano Nuevo Islands; Central Chile, from Punta Engamos to Punta Lavapi. I actually never knew that. New England, yep, they are in New England. The Mediterranean Sea; South Africa, especially the Indian Ocean side of the Western Cape and the Southern Cape regions; Southern Australia, New Zealand, and Japan, from Sendai Bay to Kumano Bay. I never knew that white sharks are in Japan. So, um, let's see. Satellite. Oh, yeah. So it's funny, Bruce. I just saw your comment. Yeah. So no worries about the dots. That's the dots are fine. And I think it's personal preference. Some people end messages on dots saying like that's really cool, and that's just it's not like a trailing thought. And then some people use the dots as a trailing thought. Ellipses, there we go, ellipses. So I think everything's fine, but yeah, but it's funny. I've run into that before myself. So it's personal preference of what people do. So. Satellite genetic studies have indicated that white sharks are highly migratory, crossing ocean basins and traveling annually between Mexico and Hawaii, and probably between South Africa and Australia, as shown by one tagged shark. Despite its position as an important apex predator, the surface behavior of the white shark is poorly understood. Some researchers reported observations about the predatory behavior of white sharks, providing ethnograms describing the hunting strategy of the effects of environmental factors on frequency and success rate of predatory attacks. Other researchers describe social interactions amongst white sharks near whale or seal carcasses, in the presence of feeding baits, and during the movements around islands. Little is known about the surface behavior of white sharks in the presence of bait in a boat. Thus, this represents an interesting topic due to the fact that ecotourism is increasing rapidly, allowing humans to interact with white sharks, especially in South Africa. The main goal in the study was to identify the surface-generated behavioral units exhibited by bait-attracted white sharks. Previous papers on white shark ethology were built on behavioral observations of sharks hunting seals. Thus, the article gives first-hand knowledge of white sharks' behavior when attracted by an object at the surface. We also correlate behaviors to the age and sex of sharks and provided an ethogram of the individual surface behaviors of white sharks in the presence of bait. So, really cool. We don't need to read the methods. We could just keep going to look at the different behaviors. So, figure A, and they're going to describe these in a bit. Figure A is a tail stand. Figure B is repetitive aerial gaping. Figure C is parading, which is interesting. And then figure D is a tail slap. So here we go. Okay. Behavioral units observed. We observed 920 episodes of surface behavior by individual white sharks. Each behavior was classified into one of the 9 following units. So here we go. 1 is tail stand. Guided by vision, the shark stopped near the bait at a distance of half a meter to 2 meters and an angle of about 45 to 90 degrees, maintaining an underwater head-up vertical posture. The average duration of display was 4 seconds, 4 to 6 seconds. It was observed 94 times, displaying when the shark moved away from the boat. Interesting. 2, repetitive aerial gaping, or RAG. So we actually read about RAG in the other article. While holding its head out of the water, the shark rolled onto its side and gaped its jaws rhythmically several times, lying face up and swimming slowly. During this behavior, the mouth of the shark was at or above the water level at the time of onset. RAG gapes were not oriented towards the bait. This display was observed 3 times with an average duration of about 4 seconds. So I think we might have a clip of it. I don't think it's this one. I think it's this one. This might be RAG. We'll see. No, not really. That's not actually really it. We'll do this one. So, shark is lifting its head out of the water. It's following bait. Sorry, it will lift its head out of the water in a little bit. Here we go. Lifting the head out of the water, following the bait. Keeping its nose out of the water, but it's not doing. So this would not be rag either because it's not opening and closing its mouth the way rag is. Interesting. We'll go back to. I think the first article was talking about rag. Here we go. There we go. One paper described a thwart-induced behavior termed RAG, or repetitive aerial gaping. Strawn observed RAG in 6 white sharks, 3 of each sex, during his study off Australia. The display was exhibited when the bait was pulled away immediately prior to contact and consists of the shark raising its head out of the water, rolling on its side, and opening and closing its mouth in a sequence of slow yet rhythmic partial gapes. The display sequences averaged 10 seconds. Analyzing each instance separately, Strawn proposed a number of hypotheses including thwarting, aggression reduction, extended feeding attempt, and predator-prey communication. He concluded that RAG is probably a manifestation of frustration incurred during a series of thwarted feeding attempts and may serve to reduce interspecific aggression. So, and this is also talking about the tail slaps as well. Another paper in the same volume documented novel tail slap and breach behaviors in white sharks of the South Farallon Islands off Central California. The authors filmed 129 feeding incidents over 3 years between 1988 and 1991, 83 of which involved some variant of the tail slap. Tail slapping consists of the shark rolling onto its side, lifting its tail out of the water, and slamming it down on the water's surface with considerable force. The resultant splash is usually directed at the other shark. So tail slap is seen as kind of more of a social thing. So here we go. Let's see. Oh yeah, love these comments, by the way. Parading. I'm interested about this. Parading. The shark swam slowly at the surface in full view of the observer. The distance between the shark and bait usually ranged from 2 to 10 meters. The end of the display occurred when the shark approached within 2 meters of the bait or moved over 10 meters away. The average duration was 221 or 200, nearly 300 seconds. This display was observed 389 times. So parading might be a good default kind of, because I don't know. Parading almost implies that the shark is doing this intentionally, kind of showing off to the boat. But I think it's kind of more maybe a descriptor for just a normal behavior, just kind of swimming lackadaisically nearby. So, tail slap. This was a powerful thrash with the shark's tail at the surface, usually a distance about 1 to 2 meters from the bait. In the usual sequence, the shark rotates onto its side, bends its body in the midsection, and lifted the posterior section of its torso. The percentage of the body elevated out of the water ranged from 20 to 35% of the shark's total length. Behavior often generated a large splash. It was observed only 4 times, with an average duration of about 4 seconds. Head-up vertical emerging, the shark maintained an immobile head-up vertical posture of half its body out of the water for about 15 to 25 seconds. We observed this display only 2 times and was not displayed in association with the other observed behavioral units, therefore was not used in the construction of ethograms. Bait follow. The shark dashed and pursued a bait at a distance of less than 2 meters from it. So as not to allow the other sharks to become satiated, only occasionally would the crew members allow baits to be eaten. They hauled the target toward the boat, and the shark usually responded with horizontal swim chase, smoothly adjusting its swimming depth to or slightly below the same depth level as that of the bait. The display ended when the shark moved away from the bait. The average duration of this was about 5 seconds. Bait follow was observed 298 times. Love this, Howard. Maybe warning to the boat to stay out of it. That's my fish. Spy hop. The shark raises its eyes above the surface, usually with a 45-degree angle between the head of the shark and the water surface. The display ended with the shark plunged back into the water. Spy hop is observed 7 times, with an average duration of 4 seconds. Sometimes 2 seconds, sometimes up to 6 seconds. So, figure 3C. Oh, great! We get to see some of these. Okay. This behavior. Oh, sorry. Visual inspection. Guided by vision, the shark stopped near the bait at a distance of half a meter to 2 meters and at an angle of about 0 to 45 degrees. This behavior ended with the shark moved away from the bait. Visual inspection was observed 104 times with an average duration of about 6 seconds or 10 seconds. So here we go. So A is a head-up vertical display. Head-up vertical emerging. Here we go. So I think that's the shark's. Yeah, that's the shark's snout. That's the shark's eye. Figure B is bait follow. So white shark chasing after the bait right here. Figure C is spy hop. So this is a spy hopping behavior. Figure D is visual inspection. So shark checking out the bait. And then figure E is a breach. So sharks fully out of the water. Incredible to see. Breach. Oh, sorry. With an energetic vertical leap, the shark propelled all or part of its body out of the water, usually with the bait in its mouth. Occasionally, multiple breaches are performed by young sharks. This behavior is observed 21 times with an average duration of 4 seconds. Alright, so we're going to kind of move ahead. This is interesting. So, associated behavior between number of behavioral units and sex and size of observed white sharks. Interesting. So, it looks like... There we go. Let's see if we can interpret this. So spy hopping, very uncommon. TST, let me see what that is. TST is... TSL is tail slap. TST is tail stand. Okay. So I'm kind of curious about tail slap, tail stand, and rag. Okay. So tail stand was conducted mostly by mature sharks. Okay, interesting. Tail slap is also conducted by mature sharks. And more so the males. So mature males tend to do the tail slap. Mature males also tend to do the bait follow. Females, not a lot of behavior here, which is kind of interesting. So. I'm going to read briefly through the discussion. Oh, this is interesting. A flowchart of behavioral transition. This is so cool. Okay, so this is actually really, really cool. So, you have spy hopping usually is followed by rag. So spy hopping a shark is like kind of checking out its surroundings, pursues the bait, and then does this display where it's opening and closing its mouth in a way that might be kind of like venting frustration. Here we have visual inspection, which sometimes goes into parading, which sometimes goes into tail stand, goes into bait follow, which goes back into parading, which goes back into bait follow. Breaching precedes parading, which goes into this mix of behavior. So this is actually a really cool float chart of white shark behavior. And we'll just kind of read the discussion. So here we go. Parading, bait follow, and visual inspection are the most frequent displays. Parading resembles a slow swimming for predatory ethnogram white sharks of South Carolina Islands. Slow swimming was the most frequent behavioral unit observed in a predatory ethnogram performed by white sharks versus phokids or aterids, and usually was the first event that came before leaps, bites, or breaches. Consequently, it may represent a survey performed by sharks before they approach and attack to the prey. Martin et al. Also observed slow and tight swim behavior between bites to prey. Interesting. Another author observed horizontal movements similar to parading for white sharks in Australian waters. The author says the behavior could be interpreted as a searching pattern, which is so cool. It's so cool to see this. Similarly, in our ethograms, parading was the most frequently observed first event and the most common behavioral unit performed. It was also performed between other behavioral units with survey significance versus the bait, such as bait follow, tail stand, and visual inspection. Although this behavior could represent an investigative and cautious approach to the animals most likely to adopt in the presence of a boat, it could also be a result of sharks swimming up to the natural fish chum smell line dispersed along the current. Some researchers described a behavior similar to parading from the bonnethead shark. This behavior, which they call patrolling, was the most common mode of swimming and also provided an excellent measure of locomotory activity. Howard, yes, it's interesting these behaviors are more commonly recorded in males. Really interesting. I definitely agree. Bait follow was one of the most frequently performed behavioral units. Let's see. Bait follow. Some authors describe bait follow as a horizontal approach to a bait. It was the most often observed display. Sometimes it's described as a surface charge. This behavior probably serves as an investigative visual, olfactory, and electrical approach to the bait in order to identify it. Visual inspection was another commonly observed display amongst bait-attracted white sharks. Some authors named this behavior the underwater approach display. Others include visual inspection among vertical approaches to floating baits. This behavioral unit may be a visual mechanism for prey selection. In fact, it is widely accepted that white sharks hunt seals by swimming at depth to exploit the visual advantage that backlighting provides against seals at the surface. Sharks use this advantage to launch ambush attacks. So interesting. White sharks of Dyer Island also exhibit breaching. This behavior usually is observed during predatory behavior against seals. Scientists reported breaching as an agonistic display amongst white sharks in the South Farallon Islands. Other observations represent the first documentation of the use of this behavior against floating bait. Tail slap was one of the less frequently observed displays for the population of white sharks of Dyer Island. In contrast, white sharks inhabiting waters around the South Farallon Islands frequently display this behavior during ethogram recordings of predatory attacks against seals, and during agonistic displays amongst white sharks competing for dead floating prey. Tail slap appeared to be a signal used to discourage other sharks from feeding on the prey. However, in our study we considered only tail slaps performed by white sharks in the absence of other sharks. Excuse me. Therefore, other likely functional significance of this behavior that comes from our observations could be that the attempt to hit a floating prey item or the result of rapid change of direction. Tail stand was commonly performed during our observations. Strong include this display among vertical approaches to floating baits shown by white sharks. This type of vertical approach was not common amongst white sharks of South Farallon Islands. This behavioral unit may be a visual mechanism of prey selection. One author suggested the use of tail stand rather than visual inspection is correlated with weather conditions. Tail stands are more often displayed on days with semi-cloudy and cloudless skies, whereas visual inspection is more frequent on days with cloudy skies. So what's really cool about this, by the way, is I've heard of white sharks being described as arguably the most intelligent of the sharks, because of how complex their environment is, and how complicated it is to be hunting seals. And it's really amazing to see all these varieties of behaviors and to kind of see how the shark. It's certainly not it's not a mindless eating machine like Jaws characterizes white sharks. It's certainly not doing that. It's actually really cool to see that there's a lot of thought and a lot of variety in approach. Where the shark is like carefully assessing what is this thing that I'm looking at, what is my best course of action, and choosing a myriad of behaviors as it's approaching it, which is so cool to see. So and it's really fun to read this all in detail because it does kind of help. Not cement, but kind of affirm. That's the right word. Affirm that white sharks are actually, as far as sharks go, pretty smart. Like there's more going on with them than a lot of other shark species, which is really interesting. And honestly, a lot of sharks are, I would say, like social. Like reef sharks, like great reef sharks are very, very social and do have a complex set of behaviors too. But it's just really cool to see this documented. So I really love how this study is kind of affirming the idea that white sharks among sharks are actually arguably one of the smarter ones, which is pretty interesting. So, and I shouldn't say that because all sharks are really cool, and all sharks like have a sensory intelligence, but it's kind of cool to see that white sharks might have a little bit more going on as far as like how they perceive the world, which is so interesting. So, some authors previously described the spy hop behavior and suggested that it could represent an investigative visual approach to the bait above the surface. Spy hop is a typical behavior exhibited by whales and dolphins. A cetacean rises and holds position partially out of the water, often exposing its entire rostrum and head. For these mammals, spy hop usually occurs during a mugging situation, where the focus of attention is located out of the water. Amongst orcas, spy hop may also provide a way to view prey species. White sharks and blacktip reef sharks are the only non-cetacean animals that are known to perform this display. And that's not even true, because other sharks, have been demonstrated to do this. Like the sand tiger sharks, the seven-gill sharks, and the dogfish, and the smoothhounds. So, oh, Howard, I would like to see white sharks' response to orcas in their environment. Yes, so that would be really interesting. That would be an amazing behavioral study. I think there is a few, like a handful of there might be research on that, because I'm pretty sure there are a few studies that do reference that, how white sharks tend to avoid orcas, or they definitely avoid orca-controlled areas, but as a habit, like they get really nervous whenever orcas are in the area. So, ooh, bull sharks. I've never heard of bull sharks spy hopping, but and I actually don't think they would. And the reason being is like bull sharks have unusually small eyes, so I don't know if it really like, and they naturally hunt in like murky water, so I don't know if it would benefit them, but it'll be kind of cool, like it's cool to think about because they are in the same genus as the blacktip reef sharks, like the Carcharinus. So other members of the same genus do it, but I think bull sharks specifically probably wouldn't, and it is just my guess, they probably wouldn't, just because they have really tiny eyes and they hunt in murky environments, so they may not need to do it. But it could be wrong. I could be wrong. Then we might see a bull shark spy hopping study. So this is really random, but also it'd be kind of interesting to see how. Oh no, but definitely aggressive posturing. Yes, you're absolutely right, Howard. So bull sharks definitely do. I'm sorry, I misread your comment. Yes, so bull sharks definitely have. They definitely in captivity. There's been some really interesting research of how bull sharks interact with other sharks, where other sharks yield to them. and they don't really mess with them, which is really interesting to think about. And it kind of makes sense where bull sharks do naturally predate other sharks, like in general. So maybe there's kind of something to that. But yeah, and they do. I think there are some studies where they do the aggressive posturing, so they angle the pectoral fins downward. They can swim in exaggerated movement. So yeah, actually, aggressive swimming would be a really cool behavioral episode to do. That might be really interesting. So. And actually, speaking of which, it's almost 10:30, and there's still a lot more to read on spy hopping, so I'm excited to continue. But for next week, please let me know if there is a shark or a shark behavior that you would like to learn. I'd be happy to do something kind of like a fun little side quest, doing... and actually, I mean, we could also do potentially more prehistoric sharks, but I think this is like a fun tangent and I like that this is a little bit of a different format. So yeah, please leave in the comments if you'd like to do a different behavior next week or a different shark species. But where was I? Oh, white sharks and black-tip reef sharks are the only non-cetacean animals that are known to perform display. Oh yeah, right. I countered that. So in white sharks, spy hopping is observed regularly, where in black-tip reef sharks, this behavior is observed only for one group and might have been learned from the interaction with humans. Interesting. Repetitive aerial gaping, RAG, has been observed among white shark populations in South Africa and Australia. Although RAG could be an artifact and have no function per se, one author discussed 5 hypotheses to explain such a pervasive behavior: maintenance, thwarting, aggression reduction, extended feeding attempt, and predator-prey communication. Based on a comparison of these alternative hypotheses for the functions of this behavior, we agree with the suggestion that in presence of bait, RAG could represent a manifestation of frustration occurred during a series of feeding attempts thwarted by the human presence on board, and may function to reduce interspecific aggression. Interesting. Here we report for the first time the observation of the head-up vertical emerging for white shark. We assume that head-up vertical emerging is similar to the display of air gulping behavior known only from the sand tiger shark. That's so cool. I mentioned that. Sand tiger shark. This behavior was first described in an aquarium specimen of sand tiger sharks and later was observed in the wild. This shark is denser than water and it swallows air at the surface, which it holds in its stomach to maintain approximately neutral buoyancy. Like a bony fish with a swim bladder, it can readily halt and hover motionless in the water. We do not exclude that. Head-up vertical emerging. There we go. Has a similar function of air gulping. Further investigations are needed. So that's actually really cool if white sharks also gulp air, because they're not that distantly related from sand tigers. So that's actually extremely cool. Association between behaviors and sex or length of sharks. Let's see. There's a significant association between behavior and sex for only 2 displays, breaching and tail slapping. Males showed these 2 displays more than females. One author proposed an agonistic meaning for both behaviors that is similar to that of surface-generated signals shown by cetaceans and alligators. In these species, breaching and tail slapping are more often performed by males and seem to be a declaration of presence. In white sharks, these behaviors could have a similar meaning and thus be most often performed by males. For associations between displays and shark size, some authors reported tail slapping to be a common behavior amongst mature sharks. Oh, this is cool. False cat shark, mating behavior, Jurassic sharks. These are great. Let's see. I actually think Jurassic sharks sound super fun. Yeah, no, we gotta do it. Let's do it. Jurassic shark. Yep, we're gonna do Jurassic sharks. It's just too good. So I think Jurassic sharks would be really awesome for a couple reasons. One, the name, but 2, Jurassic period was such a massively important period for shark evolution, where the modern sharks emerged and radiated. So that would be really cool to do. So yeah, I think Jurassic Sharks is a great topic. So thank you, Howard. So that will be next week's stream is Jurassic Sharks. So let's see. So for white sharks, declaration of presence and white sharks' behavior could be have similar meaning. Let's be more most often perform in males. Oh yeah. One author reported tail slapping to be a common behavior amongst mature sharks. There's a similar association with tail stand. Therefore, while other behavioral units belong to both immature and mature specimens, tail slapping and tail stand could represent feeding behaviors or agonistic mechanisms for prey selection in mature sharks. Interesting. I'm going to read this on the ethograms. Oh. Ethograms presented in this article referred to beta-attracted white sharks, including only 9 behavioral units with an average of 20 to 22 behavioral units for each ethogram. Furthermore, the ethograms of smaller specimens were found to consist of a greater number of units. Such complex displays have been observed previously and are well known for the gray reef shark and the scalped hammerhead. Oh. Which are gregarious species that compete for limited resources with aggressive displays. The complexity of displays observed in the study could be because the Dyer Island population consists mainly of immature specimens. While mature sharks utilize smaller activity spaces, immature ones, which would have switched recently from being piscivorous to feeding on marine mammals, are still learning how to successfully feed on these new prey types. Thus, they use larger activity spaces and multiple behaviors during the learning process. In fact, it is well established that many shark species like white shark have an ontogenic shift in diet preference. So that's actually really cool. So describing how the immature white sharks feed on fishes, and then once they reach a certain size, they switch to seals, and that requires a whole different set of skill sets. So it's so interesting to think about. Conclusion. The ethograms of behaviors of beta-attracted white sharks at the surface suggest that decisions can be acted upon via up to 4 behavioral units. Like predatory and social behavior, individual surface behavior of white sharks in presence of bait is not a simple stimulus-response reflex, but a complex tactical situation with plastic responses. Some aspects of the behavior exhibited by white sharks at the surface resemble those of other predator species like cetaceans and alligators that spend time at the surface. For this reason, aspects of the ethograms presented here may be applicable to them as well. Since all behaviors described in this article under beta conditions and in the presence of a boat have also been observed in natural predation events, we should assess that, according to other authors, the presence of a boat could have little influence on the behavior of white sharks. The results presented in this article rest on the assumption that white sharks do not respond to the presence of the boat, but focus their attention mainly on the floating object. All right, so that I'm gonna copy and paste this in the chat because this is a really, really cool study. And we're gonna keep looking for more spy hopping notes. What is this resource again? Let's see. Okay, white shark diving. Here we go. Beautiful photographs, by the way. Amazing animal. I mean, it is a really incredible animal. Let's see. Oh, this is actually pretty interesting stuff. Department of Environmental Affairs and Tourism. So this is a dive operator kind of describing some of the stuff. I think you're right, Howard. I disagree. The presence of a boat must influence the shark behavior. I think you're right because that's a pretty big thing to ignore. So let's see. Oh, this is interesting. You don't need any diving certification to do the cage dive. We limit the number per trip exclusively to 12 to ensure each of our divers receives maximum cage time. Let's see. Okay, the dive. We dive out at Dyer Island, which is situated off the coast of Gansba. Between the months of May through October is considered to be the best time to view the great white shark, although they are seen throughout the year. This is due to the 30,000 strong Cape Fur seal colony that inhabit Dyer Island, which is the great white predator's primary source of nutrition. The great white shark is a surface feeder, and thus all the activity takes place on or very close to the surface. Due to this, the surface view for the boat is excellent. The ride to the dive takes approximately 15-20 minutes, and we anchor for 4 hours. That's really cool, actually. Diving time is unlimited. For the first dive, you stay with the cage for about 30 to 45 minutes. We use a 5-person cage, so there's plenty of time to cage dive. We guarantee you at least 2 to 3 dives, depending on shark activity for the day. That's so cool. Here we go. The great white shark is a surface feeder, and most of the activity takes place on or very close to the surface. It is one of only a very few sharks known to regularly lift its head above the sea surface to gaze at other objects such as prey. This is known as spy hopping. This occurs fairly frequently during the diving trip, especially in our winter months, when there is higher concentration of sharks and increased activity of great whites. Interesting. I thought there was a note on spy hopping here. Spy hopping, yeah, agree. Nice dive exposure. That's a really good trip. Like only 15 to 20 minutes to get out there, and then you have like 4 hours with the shark. That is so cool, honestly. Spy hopping, in which a shark raises its head out of the water, often alongside a boat, and tail slap, in which a shark raises its tail and caudal fin out of the water and smashes against the surface, are common behaviors. Okay, so that's kind of an older thing. Spy hopping for the Hexantidae. This is so interesting. Broadnose seven-gill sharks are known to catch and eat cetaceans and pinnipeds. The latter species, in particular, appears to be highly social and may hunt cooperatively in packs. It has even been observed spy hopping and has taken domestic dogs swimming and wading in shallow water. Hold on. What? Okay, so these sharks are really scary, actually. So they look so. These are the same sharks that we did that episode on where we learned together that they look kind of like they look a little harmless because they look kind of like, you know, I don't know. They're not like the classic image of like a predatory shark. So these sharks right here, the seven-gill sharks, broadnose seven-gill sharks. This one, figure 6. These are shallow water seven-gill sharks that are found in kelp forests around the world, and they're actually pretty popular with divers. But it's kind of wild that they actively hunt marine mammals. And this is my new dipstick for how dangerous a shark is. If its natural behavior is to hunt marine mammals, it's probably not super safe to be around. If it's a fish eater or a squid eater, it's fine. But if it's a marine mammal hunter, that's very concerning. And these broad-nosed seven-gill sharks, it's kind of freaking me out that they are able to collectively hunt together in a pack marine mammals, and have been known to do what was just described. So, just to read again, cow sharks, so this six-gill and seven-gill sharks, are powerful predators. Large blunt-nosed six-gill and broad-nosed seven-gill sharks are known to catch and eat cetaceans and pinnipeds. The latter species in particular appears to be highly social and may hunt cooperatively in packs. It has even been observed spy hopping has taken domestic dogs swimming and wading in shallow water. It's really freaky. Where was this? It was a study. This is a diagram of 7-gill sharks feeding. So I don't know if you saw this, Howard, but it was how here's a prey item, a seal. 7-gill sharks are loosely aggregating in figure A. In figure B, they form a loose circle where they're starting to kind of close in on something. Figure C is the circle tightens, the prey item doesn't escape, and figure D is contact. So the sharks close in and rip the seal apart together. So really, really incredible stuff. I appreciate and I'm terrified. I appreciate learning. I'm terrified to learn how 7-gill sharks are actually pretty formidable. As hunters. So more spy hopping behavior. Let's see. What the heck? Oh, okay. Here we go. This is an interesting article, or let's see what this is. Shark News, newsletter of the IUCN Shark Specialist Group. So this is a trustworthy source. IUCN, it's the same people who do the IUCN Conservation of Nature. So really cool. The paragraph kind of caught me off guard, but in the context, it makes more sense now. So with each biological fact, the developers have tried to showcase how susceptible and misunderstood sharks really are, to put each fact in context of how sharks live and navigate their world, and hopefully evoke some empathy in aquarium visitors towards sharks. For example, people often misinterpret shark behaviors such as bumping into things, spy hopping, and biting objects as indicators they simply want to kill. Still, these are just some of the ways that sharks try to make sense of what something is or what is happening to in their surroundings. Sharks move their heads side to side as they swim to aid in their vision, since they have a blind spot right in front of their snouts. They're not simply on the prowl or trying to look menacing to humans. So this is kind of like a broad overview of a cool program that IUCN is working on. So just talking about how sharks are misrepresented. I know it's getting closer to 11, so I want to make sure I don't miss any new information regarding spy hopping. Shark ecotourism has resulted in numerous observations of white shark behavior similar to that of spy hopping and cetaceans, in which sharks break the surface and look at people on the boat. White shark and human encounters often appear to be based on mutual curiosity rather than predator versus prey, and numerous witness accounts of white shark behavior suggest cooperative hunting strategy and possibly even play behavior. Oh my gosh. That's interesting. What is this? Shark Research Institute newsletter. Got you. Okay, it's kind of interesting. I will kind of read this a little bit because it references a pretty famous documentary. So here we go. White shark, demystifying the man-eater. The white shark has generated more fear and fascination than any other shark species. Simply put, the shark's binomial nomenclature translates to jagged-toothed flesh-eater. It was this image that caused humans to hunt the species to the brink of extinction. Fortunately, humans' constant fascination with the white shark also resulted in a generation of marine scientists and documentary filmmakers passionately committed to documenting white shark behavior and uncovering the secret life of this magnificent fish. The first film to challenge popular misconceptions about white sharks was the classic Blue Water White Death. In the film, Shark Research Institute President Stan Waterman, Ron and Valerie Taylor, and Peter Gimbel travel the world in search of white sharks. In addition to illustrating the rarity of white sharks, the film also shows a shark not as a man-eater, but as a majestic animal simply trying to survive in the marine environment. Now, decades later, the crucial role of the white shark in maintaining a healthy ocean ecosystem is widely appreciated. As a result, the white shark has protected species status in several countries, including the United States and South Africa. Today, the rapidly growing number of shark enthusiasts and curious divers have spurred the development of shark ecotourism. For those ecotourists, encountering free-swimming sharks in their own environment is the primary objective. Shark ecotourism has resulted in numerous observations of white shark behavior similar to that of spy hopping in cetaceans, in which sharks break the surface and look at people on the boat. I know I read this, but I'll reread this again. White shark and human encounters often appear to be based on mutual curiosity rather than... Oh, cool, Howard. I remember when that film came out. I really have to watch it. I've never seen it, and I really, really have to check it out because it's so famous. And apparently Ron and Valerie Taylor, they actually supplied footage for Jaws, but they also kind of helped the film... And it's really ironic. They actually helped with the research aspect of the film, where some of that film has like bunk research or bunk science. Some of it is outdated. Some of it is actually okay and it holds up. And a lot of the stuff that holds up is from Ron and Valerie Taylor, which is kind of interesting. So, but I have to watch the documentary. I've never really seen Blue Water White Death, so I'm really excited to see that at some point. So, let's see. Numerous witness accounts of white shark behavior suggesting cooperative hunting strategy and possibly even play behavior. Oh, one of the oldest shark films was A Requiem of Sharks. Interesting. I don't think I've heard of that one. Hold on. Requiem of Sharks. Requiem of Sharks. Oops. I see a novel called Requiem of Sharks, and I know there's like Requiem Sharks, but interesting. Requiem of Sharks. I didn't see it when I was like searching it, but I have to look into it because it sounds really interesting. And I love the title too, because like the Carcharinids are commonly known as Requiem Sharks. So, and I don't know why, I forget why they get that name or where they got that name from, but. Shark Research Institute is organizing white shark expeditions to areas of South Africa where encounters of white sharks are frequent. Divers observe the sharks from the safety of a protective cage and from the boat deck in an area less than 30 minutes from shore. Participants assist in identification of individual sharks by comparative photo analysis. When possible, tissue samples of the sharks are gathered for DNA analysis. In addition to white sharks, participants observe marine mammals and other species of wildlife in a pristine wilderness that offers numerous photographic and video opportunities. You know, I'm kind of interested in, is there any ecotourism in Massachusetts? Like Cape Cod white shark. I've never heard of it, but let's see. Ecotourism. Because they are definitely... Oh, what the heck is this? Wait a minute. White Shark Tours Cape Cod. What is this? The ultimate Cape Cod white shark experience. Now booking Cape Cod white shark tours for summer and fall 2025. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. That's so cool. Wait a minute. We use a spotter pilot flying overhead to direct us to Cape Cod great white sharks, so you can expect to have excellent viewing experience. Oh, that's really expensive. That sucks. Yeah, so it's $1,700. That's very pricey. But someday that sounds really awesome. And also, I don't know if my wife is still watching, but yeah, we're doing this. Just as a heads up, we're doing this. That is so cool. That is so cool. Man, I wish I looked that up sooner. That you can actually hang out with great white sharks, and it makes sense because they're getting more and more common in New England. But that's so cool that you can actually like do some ecotourism with them. So, oh my gosh. So they do a spotter plane, then they take you out on the boat, and you could just get so close to them. That's so cool. All right, well, so. Yeah, this is a new bucket list thing unlocked. So, ouch, but it would be fun. Yes, agreed. It's really that's really pricey, but it's one day it that would be awesome. So, I'm kind of curious. what. Actually, I'm kind of curious. South Africa shark dive. I'm kind of curious what the pricing is for that. Let's just do Apex Shark Expeditions. First little result. None of this, of course, is sponsored by anybody. It's just, I just think it's kind of interesting. So let's see. Blah 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 blah. Shark trip prices. Shark trip prices. I guess we'll just do book now. Oh, I don't know what the exchange rate is, but seems like there's a lot of variety. So, I will say, shout out to Rudy Tours in Virginia Beach, where I think it's about $200, and you definitely will see some stuff. Like if you go out, it's a 12-hour boat tour, and it's one of the best wildlife experiences I've ever had. Where I've seen hammerhead sharks, I've heard of people seeing dusky sharks, blue sharks. So if you're ever in the Virginia Beach area, that's a really good trip to do. So, and actually any kind of whale watching where you go into a pelagic environment, um, there is a chance to see some surface dwelling sharks like basking sharks. So. Let's see. I think as far as science goes, this is as far as science goes. I think I wrapped up all the articles. What was kind of fun in the quest of spy hopping, I accidentally found this wonderful guide, which I don't know if anyone ever had this, but this was one of my big shark books when I was a kid. This was the DK Eyewitness Shark Book, and it's actually a really, really good collection of not just shark science, but also like shark culture. So, and one thing that I remember from this, the research is a bit outdated, but one thing I do remember from this is this really cool shark family tree, where you can kind of like follow these branches to kind of see different shark families. So we'll see how this holds up in a little bit, and then I think we'll wrap up with this. But maybe there's a slightly less expensive option. There honestly probably is. Would love to do that in the Farallon Islands. Yes, 100%. Like an eco tour of great white sharks. I wonder if there is one. I was just out of curiosity. California White Shark Eco Tour. Great White Shark Tour Monterey Bay on Sea Goddess Whale Watch. That sounds fun. Let's see. Wait, what? Wait a minute. Whoa, what? It's $100. That is not bad. Adults main deck, kids are $85. Adult VIP upper deck is $120. Wait, what? Great White Shark Tour California. I mean, we might be going to California at some point ish. I don't think we're gonna go up to Moss Landing, but that is so cool. 3 to 4 hours. What? Okay, this is really cool. So there's a Great White Shark Tour in California. So for West Coast, and that's a really good rate, honestly. I mean, honestly, any kind of whale watch where you get to see sharks, and it's only like in the $100 range. That's really good. That's so cool. Again, none of this is sponsored by anything. It's just I'm just really excited. Sea Goddess. There's another one that I actually really like. I don't think they do shark stuff, but Rye Whale Watch. I'm kind of curious what they're. Oh, it is Granite State Whale Watch. This was the whale watch that I grew up with when I was a kid, and I've seen basking sharks on this one, but white sharks are in the Gulf of Maine. So let's see schedules and rates. Kind of curious. Where are we? Okay, $52 per person, so even better. Let's see the gallery. I want to see if they actually had any sharks in the gallery. Because again, I've seen. Oh, cool! They've seen loggerhead sea turtles, ocean sunfish, common dolphins, humpback whales, a spur. No, that's a humpback whale. Humpback whale. Atlantic white-sided dolphin. That's really cool. And then I'm kind of curious. Anything else? Uh, do 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 do. Okay, so it's kind of cool to see. Uh, I'm gonna put this link. This is so cool. I am gonna put this link in the chat. Um, Here we go. So again, not sponsored by this, but for anybody who may be visiting California at any point, that's actually a really good rate to see a great white. So Sea Goddess Whale Watch. That's really cool. So okay. So last thing, shark classification. I want to see how this holds up. So here we go. So you start with this blue bar. This is not technically phylogeny, but this is still taxonomy. This is a great way to split sharks up. So you start with this blue bar. The first feature you look for is the presence or absence of an anal fin. So if a shark doesn't have one, you then check if it's a flat body, and if it is, it's an angel shark, or if it's a round body. If it's a round body, you check if it has a long snout, so it's a saw shark, or if it's a short snout, which are one of the dogfish, or bramble sharks. So bramble shark, dogfish, and rough sharks. So there you go. And sleeper sharks. Sleeper sharks are in this category. If a shark does have an anal fin, the next thing you look for is, does it have 6 or 7 gill slits or 5 gill slits? If it's 6 or 7, it's a hexantiform, so the frilled shark and cow sharks, like the really terrifying broad-nosed 7-gill shark. If it has 5 gill slits, you then look for fin spines. If it has spines, it's a bullhead shark, like a horn shark, or the Port Jackson shark. So these really cute sharks, the heterodontiforms, have spines around the dorsal fins. If it doesn't have fin spines, then you look for this feature, which we've talked about, I think, in the past few episodes. Do these sharks have their mouths right in front of their eyes, or are their mouths behind the eyes? If the mouths are right in front of their eyes, it's a Orlictolobiform, also known as the whale sharks, or carpet sharks, not whale sharks, carpet sharks. So, nurse sharks are here, zebra sharks are here, whale sharks are here, Orlictolobiforms. The final thing is presence or absence of a nictitating membrane. If it doesn't have one, it's the mackerel sharks, so including the great white. So the great white, threshers, basket sharks, makos, megamouths, crocodile, goblin, sand tigers. If a shark does have a nictitating membrane, it is the carcharodontiforms, so that's the cat sharks, smooth hounds, weasel sharks, requiem sharks, and hammerhead shark. So, honestly, this guide really holds up really well, and it's actually really cool to see that the classification of living sharks, it says it's 450 species, which that's actually pretty robust. When was this published? Clip art CD. So this actually might be a little bit updated, because I think the book that I had is maybe a little bit older. Let's see. There we go. This edition published in 2004, 2008. The first one, the 1992 one, is the one that I had. So this has a lot of like the old stuff that I saw, but I'm really happy to see that a lot of it is actually updated. So the 450 shark species is an update. Now there's like 540, which is so cool. Let's see if there's anything else that I'm missing here from this, and then I promise we'll wrap up. So really cool cross-section of shark anatomy, really cool model. It's a good book. I just saw your comment, Howard. It's a really good book. Nice chapter on ancient sharks. Really cool model, Claudislaki. Sorry, down here. I remember this picture. Smooth hounds. Man, this is a blast from the past. White sharks there. We got an angel shark. I actually don't know what species of angel shark that is. It's not the classic one, and I don't think it's a sand double. I'm not sure which one it is. So cool to see. Talk about the shark's senses, talk about mating, courtship, laying eggs, embryonic development. I remember this. Kind of a cross section of swell sharks, embryonic development. So it's one of the egg-laying species. Sharks give birth to live young. So this is a lemon shark. See the comment audio fuzzy, and it's probably because I'm crushing the bandwidth with all of these, just scrolling through these pages. So I think we'll wrap up for tonight with a final little clip of this one. It just is such a great clip of a white shark doing true spy hopping. So here we go. But guys, thank you so much for watching and also for suggesting tonight's episode. It's fun to do a departure from what we typically do, which is focus on one shark species. So, and I think this revealed a lot of cool behavior. It was mostly focused on the great white, but it's by nature of the fact that white sharks have the most coverage as far as spy hopping behavior goes. So it's really cool to just, dive a little bit more deeply into it, and I think see a more complex picture of how a white shark behaves, and see, firsthand that they're actually really complex animals. So I think between that and the fact that what we learned about the broad-nosed seven-gill shark, it was a really cool subject to explore, and I'm excited to do more behavioral episodes. This was a really fun one to do. So next week, we're going to dive back into the past with Jurassic sharks. So we've never done an episode focusing on Jurassic sharks specifically, and I'm very excited to explore this group of sharks and see what characterizes them and what fossils we have from the Jurassic, and how they relate to the sharks today. But until then, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and continue enjoying October and the Halloween season. I always treat the whole month as Halloween, so hope you all watch scary movies and just enjoy the nice, cool fall weather, and tune in next week for Jurassic Sharks. But thank you so much for watching, and take care, and I will see you next week. Have a good night, guys. Bye.